Hi, I'm David. I'm happily married to Karen, and I'm the fortunate father of 3 amazingly beautiful girls. In my day job, I run a property management company. I've suffered from depression for close to 25 years now. I guess the worst days were in my early 20s when life was one dark tunnel with no light at the end of it. Fortunately, I've used antidepressant tablets for the last 10 years or so, and they've worked well, and I've actually had not that many lows over the last few years. The lockdown and the pandemic has really been tough on most of us, with quite a lot of us having material losses. And let's not underestimate the trauma of having to now adjust to a new normal. And let's really make sure we're looking after ourselves at this time. For us as a family, we went through quite a lot of material losses, but we're just so grateful for God's faithfulness over this time. And even though we had to make some tough decisions, including letting go a whole lot of staff, we're so thankful for God's goodness and mercy at this time. I guess from a depression perspective, the lockdown actually didn't affect me as much as I thought it would. It was more some family members, 2 family members who marriages broke down, and also I was deeply concerned as Karen went through had to go through a COVID test, and I was quite concerned about that. Unfortunately, she came out negative. The depression was like a deep grief underneath my skin, over my whole body, and it morphed into some kind of dark hole for close to 2 weeks, and which is quite unusual, much longer than normal. And I'm just so thankful for Karen at this time for supporting and loving me and allowing me to work my way out of the valley. I'm also so thankful to our Connect group, who, even though I didn't really want to spend time with people, they pressed in and prayed for me and encouraged me, and I really appreciate that. One of the blessings of the lockdown is that I've got back into drawing again. For me, drawing is a prophetic act. It's a way of expressing my feelings and a way of kind of in one way expressing my faith and the promises of God. For example, this drawing I did is called I Will Overcome. For me, lockdown has often felt like being on a steep mountain, clawing my way up inch by inch. And I drew this as a way of giving myself hope and encouragement to keep persevering, and with the promise that I will overcome. Another drawing I did was as a result of, during the depression, I woke up a few mornings listening to or hearing Elevation Music's See a Victory. And I drew this as a way of expressing the promise is that I'm going to see a victory. And for me, it was quite encouraging. Depression is really nothing to be ashamed of. It's, in many cultures, in fact, it's seen as a superpower. And it actually affects many of us. And it might affect us in different ways. For example, if you're super tired, or for me, my mind is a bit more fuzzy than normal, or more irritable than normal, and so forth. But in whatever way it manifests, I really encourage us to always bring it to the light. And I really urge us to nurture our souls, especially as men, when we're hurting inside or our emotions are broken, that we acknowledge it and we bring it to the light, that we share with trusted friends or with our pastors or with elders, and we lean into our spiritual family. And if we do this, God comes in healing. And not only as we grow in our wholeness do we grow, but we are also better able to help those around us as they walk through the valley. I just want to remind us that the Lord is always faithful. Even in the darkest of times, that God has come in. And even if I haven't felt the reality of God's faithfulness, if I've held on to the truth of who God is and His promises, I have found that He's always come through, even in the darkest of times. And I just want us to also remind us of one last thing. There is always hope. Even in the darkest of times, I've experienced that God's come in faithfulness. So I just want to pray for each one of you who are watching this, who may be affected by mental illness. I pray for your encouragement. I pray for new hope within you. I pray that you wouldn't suffer in silence, that you would be able to share with spiritual family. And I just pray for a victorious walk with God.